Welcome to That's What I Call Marketing, the podcast where you hear from the leading lights in the marketing world and listen to their unique insights. Well, today is one of my favorite episodes. It's like an annual tradition now. It is the Christmas ad review, and it's with RedC Research. So thanks to RedC for their support of this episode. And I have three amazing guests with me today. Before we get around to saying hi to the guests, just a reminder, if you are enjoying That's What I Call Marketing and would like to rate or review any of the episodes you listen to, it is really appreciated. And of course, you can subscribe and you will never miss an episode ever again. Just like my three guests here today, they've never missed one episode of That's What I Call Marketing. I don't know why they're all laughing. And if you are watching now, you will see that we're all very in festive attire. I'm in my that's what I my Christmas jumper. So we've got glitter and all sorts going on. So listen, let's get straight into it. And I want to introduce my guests. And I'm going to ask them actually to give us just a brief introduction. And in a hurry, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay.
Connor, thanks very much for having me. I'm Una Herlihy. I am the co-founder of the Indie List, which is a freelance marketing matchmaking service.
Brilliant.
I won't go on.
No.
Hi, thanks very much for having me. I am Alma Birbilaite. I am brand and communications manager at Cairn.
Brilliant. And of course, we worked together for about 6 years. So good to see you again. And the best work we ever did was because of Alma got it done. So, and Ciara, I will hand over to you to do the intro.
Thanks so much, Connor. And look, we are absolutely delighted to be a part of this podcast and to sponsor today. So I'm Ciara Reilly. I am a director in RedC Research, one of the biggest research agencies in Ireland, and also growing our space in the UK. So delighted to be here today. Can't wait to share our results with you.
Brilliant. And that is it. So we have got exclusive look RedC's review and research of the Christmas ads, the crop of Christmas ads this year. So Ciara, can you just tell us a little bit about the testing, how you went about it, and some of the methodology without getting too technical on us?
So a brief overview. And in really simple terms, we have a great product called Red Star that we've had for over a decade now, tested thousands of ads across all formats, including TV. And Red Star uses the fundamentals of what makes advertising work. So at the core, we measure things like creativity. So whether consumers want to see the ad again, we measure things like emotional response. So how it made them feel. So in some instance, we'll talk about today whether it made people feel warm and fuzzy or happy, or a couple of them got people laughing, was really humorous ad. So really getting into the emotion. We also look at, and I'm sure we'll talk about in detail, the fame. So something that's really hard for ads to reach. So getting people to talk about with others or to share online. And then amongst other measures as well, we look at distinctive. Again, I'm sure we'll get to talk to that today about whether people can associate the ad with the brand that's actually advertised. So to do our testing, we used another product, RedC Direct, which is our DIY online ad tool. Works overnight. You just pop your ads up across any format that you like, and you get your lovely report the next day. So yeah, delighted to be able to share everything with you today.
Amazing. It's great, I think, for people to know that this is an option for people. And there's obviously people talk a lot about other suppliers. I'm not going to name names. This is a great option to have. And as you say, not just for this market, but also available in the UK as well. And we'll talk about some of the UK testing as well. Will we go through the Christmas? I was going to just do top 5, but we might do the top 10 countdown, and then we can touch maybe on conversation a bit around the top 5. Is that okay, Ciara, with you, if we reveal the top 10?
Okay. So the top 10, if we start with the number 10, so we have Super Value coming in there at number 10 this year. So how our measures work is that we get an overall score. So it's called a Red Star score. So there's Super Value, Share the Magic, and you might all remember it. It's the girl, they did a series of them. And the one we tested in particular was the girl and the Brussels sprouts. And it's quite funny.
Yeah. Brilliant.
It's great. And so that got a Red Star score of 68, which is a fantastic score for Super Value. I thought it was a great ad.
Great. And then we'll run through the top 10 and then we can chat about some of them.
So this reaches also a Red Star score of 68. This is the girl who's getting all the tips and hints about how to reveal her crush that she likes him. Then we're at number 8. We have another retailer, Tesco, with the gingerbread man, also at the score of 68. So 10, 9, and 8 getting the same Red Star score as 68. In at number 7, to count back there, is Vodafone Joy of Connection with a score of 70. So you'll all know this ad. It's been running for a number of years with the man and his daughter jumping into the sea. In at number 6, then, we have Dunnes Stores, another ad that's been around for quite some time, Shine Bright, getting a Red Star score of 70. In at number 5, one of my favorites is TK Maxx Festive Farm. I thought it was hilarious, getting a Red Star score of 71. In at number 4, a new entrant, Coca-Cola. The world needs more Sanchez, getting a score there of 71. Also, and then the top 3. So with a Red Star score at 73 is Aldi, Kevin the Carrot, this time who's coming out of the Mission Impossible theme. In at number 2 is another one that's been around for a few years, but they've adapted it. And then in number 1 spot, delighted to say, with a Red Star score of 77 is Lidl with the Magical Christmas, which you might remember is the little girl sledding down and meeting the older lady with the magic bells.
Amazing. Brilliant. And congratulations to all in the top 10 and for Lidl and their number 1 spot. Incredible. Well, listen, I'd love to chat a bit about some of the ads in that top 10, or even we can focus in the top 5. But is there any of those, Una, for you, when you looked at the kind of the top 5 or top 10 that really kind of popped out for you and that you're like, oh, I loved this ad?
Yeah, well, I think it's fantastic to see the levels of creativity that are coming out from these brands. It's just really reassuring to see that the industry is really alive and kicking and pushing itself to be really creative in terms of how they bring these campaigns to market, particularly around Christmas time when the competition is just so fierce. For me, I think the ones that really resonate are the Vodafone and the On Plus, all the feels in both of those ads. And for me, around Christmas time, it's about those simple stories that are about connection with people who are either away or I think what I like about both of those ads is that have that really simple, very kind of emotional connection. For me, the Vodafone one just always kind of gets me. It's on a bit too much. So I would say from a media buying perspective, it's like, I get it. I've only seen it about like 20 times in the last hour. But yeah, they're the ones for me.
How about you, when you look at that list, what are the ones that kind of stand out for you that you enjoyed?
Yeah, so I have, because I'm Lithuanian, but I lived in Ireland for so long, I have kind of 2 sides. So my Irish side would like the TK Maxx Festive Farm and then all the laughs that it gives. But my Lithuanian side likes a good cry from the Christmas ad. And that's my favorite part of it. So with that in mind, I think the Vodafone ads really resonated with me, just like being an expat and all that connection that it showcases and the importance of that. And I think just because of society we live in, and a lot of people now live abroad from their families, and it's just like really, really warm and nice. And Little Magical Christmas, I thought that it's just so clever from the standpoint that it's like affordable brand, which provides you more for your money, right? And then they're showing that there's more to conventional Christmas and the presents and the turkey on the table. And those simple moments, just having something for Christmas, can be more meaningful. So I thought that this is a very clever way of doing it. And also M-Post, it just made me sad. So like, and I like a good cry. So I thought that just like nice storytelling and cleverly, beautifully made ad as well.
Yeah, no, it really is. And Ciara, you mentioned the TK Maxx Festive Farm, and you enjoyed that one because it made you laugh. And what was it about it that made you laugh?
Yeah, I saw them waddling down all the animals in their really fancy garb. I just thought it was very funny. But I thought it was a good way as well for them to bring across the designer gear in an approach that isn't so much expected. And what we do see on Festive Farm is that when we look at the results, that does get a good bit of talkability. And the other area that it does quite well in versus others is in rational impact, so persuasion to use the brand.
Okay.
So I think it does quite well at that. I just thought it was silly and funny and different. And I think, Uli, you mentioned something there about simple stories, and I'm sure we'll talk about that to come. And I think it's just a very simple, oh, that's cute, disruption to your ad breaks as you're looking at them.
Yeah,
think
and
it's
I was going to say it's interesting that it gets across the rational as well. Like it's humorous, it's enjoyable, but actually people are going, oh yeah, it's helping them consider TK Maxx as a place to go.
Yeah, and it has one of the highest fame scores that we've achieved across the ads this year. It's silly and funny.
It also speaks nicely to the brand promise because it is luxury but affordable. So it shows the farm, which is not luxury but affordable probably, and then the ducks in the designer gear. So I think it's just like very relevant to the brand identity.
Distinctive as well, Robert. But it's very distinctive, and I think it challenges the perception about TK Maxx, because when you go into the shop, it doesn't give you that vibe. But at the same time, we've all kind of stood in TK Maxx and gone through the rails and rails of clothes and picked out a gem. And when you do, it's just the business. But you have to take the rough with the smooth with TK Maxx. But I think this your commercial really encourages you to go through the pain in order to find that little gem. So I think it's great, and it is funny and light. And
it's interesting because probably in that top 10, it's probably the only one that has that bit of humor. The rest are all a bit pulling at the heartstrings and the emotion, and it's quite interesting that we only have that one that's humorous.
Well, the super value one with the girls sitting at the table, and the other, there's 3 of them, I think, that they're on air. And I think it just brings a little bit of humor to it. They have the P&I, the price and item side as well at the end of the ad. But I think it's just a little bit of humor brought into it as well.
You're absolutely right. And because she's brilliant and character,
great.
And she'll almost become quite
great bit of casting there for that. And I think casting is just so important for these kind of storytelling. It can absolutely make or break it. I know it's not on the list, the Flow Gas ad at the moment, like the casting and that is just, it's just brilliant. But the thing about the Super Value and the Tesco and Aldi and Lidl and Dunn's, like they're all saying for every share of the basket, and particularly Super Value, Tesco and Dunn's are really going for those family moments. And it's so difficult to take those kind of existing tropes and slightly turn them on their head, move away from the kind of the heartstrings and go to humor. I think humor is just one of those things that's lacking in a lot of advertising lately. I was reflecting on some like really humorous Christmas ads in the last number of years. The one that just kept on coming into my head was the Ryanair one, where the guy comes home for Christmas and the mother is up. He surprises his parents coming home for Christmas, and the sister is looking at him, scowling, saying, "Uncle Dermot's staying in your room."
Oh, yes.
And he's like very quickly going, "How do I get out of here?" And I just loved taking that trope and turning it on its head. It was so funny. But I know that's not on our list today, Ciara.
I know,
You're saying about all the different retailers. And I think what's really interesting to realize is that Lidl tops the list. So Lidl is the number 1. And it takes a different format to the other retailers. With Tesco and Super Value and Aldi, they are telling stories, but they're also incorporating a lot of the food into their ads, what they're selling, they're showing the meal. Whereas Lidl takes a different approach of just going with that emotional story of the older woman and the little girl helping and things like that. And I think that's what has separated it from the other retailers and allowed it to achieve that number 1 position.
And it's an epic story as well.
It's huge. It is. But for me, there's a really terrifying moment in it when the teddy bear raccoon comes alive, and I'm expecting it to attack the child. So I that's my moment where I'm just like, like in Elf, right? And like, so at that moment, my emotion might have dipped on that.
My scary moment in that ad was when the little boy was so happy to get a little branded beanie. I'm kind of just, no.
I
I
think
love
for me,
Lidl, but no, I'm not wearing Lidl branded beanie.
I think for me it was when the train was approaching.
I have to say though, I've seen a good few people walking around with the Lidl branded runners. I don't know if you've seen
Oh,
them.
yeah.
So it's one of those things that elite out there brands that just people go with and it's successful.
I think when they brought the clothes out, I was like, this is genius. Full Lidl. Alma, one of the things I was looking at in the ads, I'd love to get your thought would be, we have a mix of consistency, or so you got Vodafone, who's brought the same ad out again and again. You got maybe fresh consistency with Unpost, which is the same idea but slight amends to it. And then you've got newness, like brand new ads we've never seen before, even though there might be a theme to them. What's your view on that mix? Do you have a preference for a brand? Pick maybe one strategy and go with it?
Yeah, so I think it really depends on the brand's identity. Guinness showed that if you just show the same ad over and over again, people know what it is and it's all good and then you're always a winner. But frequent change, I thought it's expected from on Christmas specifically, but I think that frequent change in advertising can confuse the consumers a little bit and devalue the brand, because I know you as one thing and then you're the other thing and then what's going on there. So I think creative consistency basically shows that it's the most effective way to do that. And just if you find a good messaging, just stick with it. If you find the good character, just stick with it and don't shift too much. However, Christmas, it's like a Super Bowl of Europe, right? So everybody wants to do something impressive and maybe come up with new characters that could potentially stick only for Christmas and so on. But I'd say if you are very well-known brand and you're doing really, really good, perhaps it's a bold step to actually reinvent something and do something new. So yeah, it's probably depending on what's your brand identity and what do you want to do. And if you want to experiment, my preference would be just stick with the good messaging unless you want to completely pivot.
Yeah. And you've got something like Kevin the Carrot. So Kevin the Carrot's been around for a long time now. There's almost an expectation, well, maybe just with us in marketing, but like we're waiting to see what Kevin's going to do this year. And is it going to be enjoyable? And like it scored really well. But there's been a bit of a, I don't know if it's called a backlash, but a bit of a, yeah, we know it's Kevin, we know it's we expect him to do this now. Do you think, like, has Kevin had his day?
Well,
go ahead, Ciara.
No, I was just going to say it's actually really interesting on our results because we've been tracking Kevin since 2022, and Kevin in 2022 had a Red Star score of 79, and new Kevin now this year is down at 71. So it's still an exceptional score.
Yeah.
But it's just not as strong as it was back in the day. So you are asking the question, has Kevin had his day and should they move on? But there's such strong assets there. It's very distinctive still. People do like it. So it's one that they have to weigh up. But I am starting to question whether or not, or how many more years that he has left.
I think that the magic lies in like striking that right balance between nostalgia that Kevin potentially already has on some people and then the novelty. So you need a lot of investment into the creativity to overcome that fatigue, and people just, okay, I've seen that, I don't care about that anymore. So it's just you need to maybe approach it as almost like a, I don't know, a TV show or something like that. Every Christmas there's a new episode. I heard that Kevin did really well in Australia, so maybe just like giving him a show around the world or something like that. But generally, well, Aldi's never going to hire me, but I think it's annoying.
Release you elicits an emotion, Alma.
Yeah, well, annoyance is an emotion, of course, yes.
What's your thought?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Kevin, I have to say. I think he's a great asset, and I think probably needs to maybe have a little bit of a change in tack in terms of how he shows up, not just in advertising, but really through activation. We know that in these markets that are very mature and highly competitive, where things are being won is in the customer experience. And I think if there are ways in which Kevin could be used and utilized in more activation ways, I think it could be really, really interesting. Every time I see Kevin, I think of that fantastic campaign that was developed a number of years ago. I can't remember the supermarket chain in France, but I know the agency was an agency called Marcel, and they developed the Inglorious fruit and vegetable campaign, which was like ugly fruits, basically.
Okay.
And they used this device of ugly fruits as a way to talk about food waste. And I think there are ways in which Kevin can be used to tackle some of those bigger issues, so that then when we start to look at how Kevin can be deployed from an advertising perspective, it maybe gives him more things to talk about, because just based on what Alma said there, there's the nostalgia factor, which is huge, but also relevance is really, really important in kind of keeping him fresh, excuse the pun. But my view would be, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but really the longer you retain an asset like Kevin, the higher the stakes become, I think, in order to make sure that he does cut through and is a really, really strong, effective brand asset.
It's interesting. It's almost like Kevin could have more of a rounded character personality, that we see different sides to him. And like, we're talking about an animated carrot here, but you know, we creating that, actually, you're right, and it gives more leverage to Kevin, and so he can appear. And we've seen him do different things. Like we saw him at the Rugby World Cup ad, I think, here in Ireland anyway. And so, but it was the same kind of Kevin. Like, he's one dimensional maybe a little bit, and we need to have a backstory.
It was totally, or even just like ride the wave of what's going on in culture. I mean, if there was a new Minions movie coming out, like Kevin could do something really clever around that, so like cloning Kevin, or just like giving ideas off the top of my brain. What girl I am. But I think if you look at something like Compare the Meerkat, there is a brand asset, phenomenal, and continues to. Although I haven't seen him for a while. Is he gone?
No, I think he's still here.
But yeah, like, just really always new, always fresh, always entertaining, always relevant. And I think they've got to really push him forward now, maybe a little bit out of his comfort zone.
I think, just to add to that, a brand that I think are doing the extended activations really well. And when we look at our Red Star testing, when we started off in 22, we got a score of 74. In 23, it went up to 75. And now this year is at 76, is on post with Tin Man.
Yeah.
And I thought the activation that they did, I assume everybody got one.
Yeah.
I got a letter into my post box, and my daughter went and got it and was like, oh, who's this from? It was just bringing it to life, and you're bringing it to another level, so that they're extending it, so you physically feel the emotion that they're trying to demonstrate on screen. And I thought that was very, very clever.
You are listening to That's What I Call Marketing.
If you would like to reach an engaged community of marketing leaders, get in touch with That's What I Call Marketing to discuss sponsorship opportunities.
I completely agree with that. But here's the interest. I love the on-post ad. But like, to Alma's previous point, it does make me a little bit sad. Like, it is very, very sad. Like, it's got all the feels, but maybe nearly too much feels. Like, you know, you could kind of like have the little tear in your eye. And I was looking back over the previous John Lewis ads, because there was something in the on-post ad that reminded me of one of the John Lewis concepts, which was the man in the moon. So this man on another, dimension, and far away, lonely, alone, and this little girl spots this and tries to reach out to him. So very different execution, but the same kind of basic idea. And it didn't have this, like, I loved that ad. That was one of my favorite John Lewis ads. But it was the same idea, but it didn't make me feel as sad as the on-post one. And I don't know why that is.
I think would that be a little bit more of the cultural relevance as well? Because that on-post ad, to me at least, it feels very Irish. I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just that, and like, potentially that. And so you talked about the ad from John Lewis back in the day, when John Lewis ads were like the best thing of the year, right? And then they did make you feel something. I read a bit of research, and I don't remember the source. I should have made a note that just because of everything that is going on in the world, and there's a lot of catastrophes and tragedies, etc., people are getting a little bit tired of feeling empathetic and sad, and that's why that humor is stepping into the advertising, because I just don't want to watch any more sad. Well, I do want to watch sad ad, but people don't, so they want to watch something that gives positive emotion. So that's something as well to think about.
It's really interesting, but yet we see a lot of emotion. And again, the more heartfelt emotion in this crop of ads. John Lewis was brought up, so we have to talk about John Lewis. I mean, in a way, it feels like John Lewis almost created this category, right? I mean, there certainly has always been the waiting for the John Lewis ad. What's your views on this year's ad? They obviously had the lead in bringing back some of the older parts of the brand story, and this year's ad, I'd love to get your views on it. Has it hit the mark, or are we still a ways off from John Lewis getting back to their best? Una, I'll start with you.
Okay, beautifully shot, beautifully done, but a little bit chaotic, I think, in terms of the story. So this fantastical journey back through memories and jumping from one time to another made it a little bit incoherent for me. Choice of music was nice, but I think they had chosen better music in previous campaigns. So for me, I think they missed the mark a little bit. And I think it was the complexity of the storyline that didn't do it for me. But I have to say, I always just look forward to them. It's like, as you well know, Connor, I'm from the country. So like 8th of December was like, yeah, it was the biggest day of Christmas. But like for me now, it's like when the John Lewis ad lands, which is very disappointingly now in November rather than December. But that's my view on it, Connor.
Alma, how about you? And then Ciara, you can give us the score. But Alma, what's your view on this year's John Lewis ad?
Well, it's second year in a row and it's a little bit disappointing. I always expect from John Lewis that it's going to be very heartfelt and very emotionally resonant. This one still is, but not to the extent that the previous ones were. And I think, like Una said, it's quite complex narrative that they're using, and I'm watching it because of the professional kind of interest and so on. But for somebody who's in a different industry, just to see it on TV, would you actually stick through and watch all of it? Because it is quite complex to follow, and there's a lot going on and quite chaotic as well. Also, I think the choice of music, because usually they choose slow down kind of version of the music that again is very emotionally charged, and this time it was very different. I'm not sure if I really like it.
Okay, Ciara, you give us, what do the public think?
Well, unfortunately, it didn't do great at all this year. For context, the 2022 ad we tested and it reached a score of 73. Our norm, and Christmas ads always do much higher than norm, as you'd expect. Our norm is 51 and it reached 58 this year. So it was ranked 13 out of 17, unfortunately. And just as you said, Una, we had a number of different verbatims. So we asked people the likes and dislikes of ad. And overwhelmingly, people were confused. They couldn't follow the narrative. They had no idea what was going on. I think the jump, as you say, between current and past, it was just too confusing. But I have to say, on a personal note, I loved it. And it actually made me cry. I thought before we tested, when I saw it live on TV, I was like, oh, but this is my favorite ad. But it was because I was thinking of me and my sister. It had a personal, emotional connection. And I think that if you had that, it might work. But for many more, obviously, it didn't. And I'm sure we'll talk about it as well. But having that simple storyline is just so important for every ad, not just Christmas. It's great when you want to go into a massive production and tell us a movie and tell a short story in an ad. But it just has to be simple for people to follow.
You can see in a way, it's a lovely story. Like, it's a beautiful story. You can see how you could get excited by that script coming through and reading it and going, oh, this is a really beautiful, it's a big connection. All the things we've talked about. But then at what point do you stand back and go, where is comprehension going to be a problem here? And that's always figuring out, is comprehension going to be an issue? And then you take it away from the 3 minutes down to 30 seconds. Can you get it? Can you get the whole thing into the 30 seconds? Because you probably can't. So it's a tough one. Yeah. I wondered, and I think I did ask even on LinkedIn, should John Lewis just have gone back to one of their really good ads? Run it again.
Yes, please do it. Do the old school that John Lewis had.
You know, just because I don't think they've aged. We want to touch briefly, because we could probably spend the next 20 minutes that we've left talking about this. We won't. But Coca-Cola and the AI ad. So the AI version of that ad. Alma, what's your view on Coke and AI version of Holidays Are Coming?
Yeah, I was very excited about that because it still has that nostalgic effect, but it also blends the technology. I know that a lot of people thought that this is like blasphemy, you shouldn't be doing that, but I think that it's showing that technology can enhance the nostalgia and enhance the creativity and everything in a positive and good way. But I'm also excited for where that could potentially go, because like you can maybe optimize to change every single ad and localize for each town, for each person, and then maybe you can actually see yourself in the ad, etc. So AI gives like affordable, well, to extent affordable option for even the smaller brands to do something like that. And I think Coca-Cola doing it could just spark idea in a lot of different brands. This is the future basically, and this is what you can do. So yeah, I did like the ads, and I think that's how 2025 Coca-Cola ads should look like.
Yeah, look, I think Coke used to own Christmas, didn't they? And the Coke ads years ago were what we used to look out for before John Lewis started doing amazing ads. And that original kind of holidays are coming campaign was just sensational, unbelievable production values. I think in this particular case, it left me a little bit cold. I think it did a fantastic job in showing the capability of the AI tools that are available to us now. And I think that that's really important to be able to showcase the power of technology in delivering really, really beautiful new ways of bringing campaigns to market. What left me a little bit, so what? You know, sorry, being a bit of a Grinch, but
Ciara?
Well, from a personal perspective, I was a bit disappointed that they took what is a classic and just used AI to prove that they could do it. From public perspective, it did amazing. We tested in the UK and it came up with a Red Star score of 74. And the reason it did so well is because it's distinctive. It got a distinctive score, so recognizing the brand of 90 compared to our norm of 52. And when we're looking at the verbatims, people are saying, you just know it straight away. Love it, nostalgia. And it's that oral asset, at the holidays. Everybody knows that immediately. So it's so immediately recognizable as being Coca-Cola. Now, we did get a number of comments as well saying, why are they using AI? But also ones that are saying, oh, it's really interesting to see what it can do. Because from our perspective, we are so aware of, what happens and what is possible in AI. But from a general public perspective, they don't know. For them to see it, I think it was just really something interesting while keeping the nostalgia, the nuances of the actual creatives that you and I would spot and go, oh, don't like that. General public just heard the song, love it, holiday, Christmas is here, that's it.
the muscle memory kicks in.
Exactly, yeah.
Also, in our industry, we're so close to looking at advertising and dissecting it, and our default position being cynical. Whereas
we're Irish as well, so we just throw
we're Irish. Yeah, exactly. Throw in a bit of the grudgery and it makes for a great Christmas party. But I'm not surprised that people love it so much because it is like that trigger and gets you in the mood.
I think it also like what excited me about that, and then I did a bit of more research, is that just makes everything way easier when you want to localize and then do same ad in different countries, because it gives you opportunity to translate emotions. So for example, what's the humor like in Ireland versus Germany versus Spain versus US and so on and so on. So with AI, you can deliver the same message in a way that makes sense to the specific market. And I think that's just a future I want to live in, to be honest.
And I loved your idea, Alma and Coke. If you take this from Alma, you need to go hire her to make her do it. But like that idea of actually, can AI next year have the Coca-Cola truck going through your town and that being the ad? That's amazing. And you think about in the US where you can buy advertising in the regions and more localized advertising, you could see how that could actually work. And you can do some of that in the UK as well. So I think that's really interesting about where it could potentially go. I guess when I loved the fact that they tried it and did it, but I was like, they didn't need to, because it's such a beautiful classic ad, like doing an AI version of the Guinness ad. Somewhere Damien Devaney would just be curled up in the corner.
But I think it's back to that on the brand identity and what kind of brand you are. I think for the Guinness, using AI would not really be what they are and their personality, etc. For Coca-Cola, it's on the verge, like that they are. It's okay for them to use that and not to make a complete mess of the brand. So it's again depending on what you want to be.
Ciara?
I was just going to say, one of the ads, I think that's so clever, and it could have been done in AI, and I'm sure they thought about doing it in AI. And it talks to what we were saying about continuity, but like evolving continuity. I don't know if you've seen the new Guinness Nitro Surge, where they're essentially doing the dancing man, keeping the music, but they have the Nitro Surge there. Now, I don't think it was AI that created it, but you could see how they could have used it. And I think it's just a really good evolution of what is a great ad. And again, it's distinctive, like those RL Aspen song. You know that song. Sorry, obviously people of a certain age know that song. But I think it's a great evolution. And Alma, it's exactly what you're saying. It's not to their brand to be that innovative in that overt way, but they've still kept the assets while growing what everybody loves about them.
I'd love to talk about some of the surprises coming out of this year's crop of ads. And one of the things, Ciara, that came out was that celebs do not guarantee success, and hired characters had a mixed response. Can you tell us a bit about what you uncovered in the RedC research?
Yeah, so we had, particularly in the UK, we tested a number of different ads that had both the hired assets, so the likes of BFG for Sainsbury's, and then we had the sheep with Barber, even as their logo. So, and then we had, of course, Dawn French, Marks and Spencer. So there was a number of different ones. So I think when it works really well is when the borrowed asset, when there's enough distinctive assets already, that the borrowed asset just adds to it rather than detracts to it. So for instance, Sainsbury's with BFG did incredibly well because it brought BFG into their store. Like, you can't have a bigger asset than actually going shopping around the store. And that ad did incredibly well. It got a Red Star score of 71. And Barber, it did really well as well because it was so humorous. People were laughing. They thought it was really funny. And, it did do well. It got a Red Star 61, but it's not getting those 70s or even 80s that we would have seen in the past. That, is a really successful one. Then on Dawn French, Dawn did great in the UK, not so great in Ireland. Again, it was really fun. It was funny, but in the UK, it got a 74, and Ireland got a 67. So it's still good, but it's not maybe as good as you might have thought it would be. So it really depends on how they fit in with the brand and how strong the other assets are, that it's not just about the person.
Not taking over. That's really interesting. I love the Dawn French one. I actually thought it was the best one they've ever done with her this year. I thought it was really
great. Where they're building on the last few years where she was just doing the voiceover of the fairy, the character rather, and they actually brought her to life. And I got a good giggle out of it. But is it her or is it brand? Was the question.
And then we saw that I was again surprised at this, that JD Sports didn't score well, and that is in both markets.
Yeah, JD did. I wouldn't want to say bad, but not great. We talked about having a clear, easy to follow storyline, and when you look at the verbatims, people just happened to clue what was going on in the ad, and you can't blame them. It was trying, obviously, to get across the spirit of Christmas as it transcends across so many different demographics, and Christmas is everywhere. It's not just in one particular place. But so our Red Star score, the norm is 57. So I mentioned 51 before. In the UK, it got 39, and in Ireland, it got 34. And you would think maybe in the UK, strong brand UK might have done that bit better, but it just left people really confused, no idea what was going on. And even the link to Christmas was challenged. And then the distinctive score, it was very low because so many people saying, I had no idea it was about JD Sports, and them saying, I would have paid more attention to the clothes had I known. So it just missed the mark, unfortunately.
But I was surprised because to me, it definitely felt, I thought last year they did a brilliant job on their ad, and it felt like they were trying to do the same again, but it did feel a bit more confusing. And the last year they really leaned into the art of the yellow bag as a distinctive asset throughout. And this year they seem to only have it maybe in an opening shot and not as much throughout. So that brand linkage needs to be strong, people. We've so much I still want to talk to you about, but we're going to run out of time. So I do want to ask you, are there any other ads that you have loved this year that we haven't yet talked about? Alma, any that haven't made it onto our list, but are on your list of ads that you enjoyed this year?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it was shown in Ireland, if that's okay to mention, but it was big, well, relatively in US. It's for the AirPods Pro, the new hearing aids that they have launched, and they have a beautiful, very kind of heartfelt, heartstrings pulling ad where the dad receives the gadget and he can finally hear his daughter, and he goes through all this memory line about his daughter's words, and it just demonstrates that how this small thing like the hearing aid from AirPods can basically deepen that connection and also inclusivity and everything during the holiday season. So dad missed all these things that he could have had with his family, but now he can. So like that one made me cry. That was kind of the first ad this year that really made me cry. So I thought that it's really brilliant.
That was beautiful. Una, how about you?
So I've got two. One is probably expected, the other very controversial, but the one that's totally expected is Specsavers. I love how they're starting to activate the campaign idea now through just really funny, clever use of specials and out of home. So I don't know if you saw the one where the car was up on the two bollards. And then when you're flying into Sydney Airport, there's a poster over one of the air bridges saying, "Welcome to Melbourne." The same. So it's all about booking an eye test. So I just think that's just another enduring idea that they're managing to just breathe life into. It's like the world is their playground with this idea. So it's just such a big idea, beautifully executed, really simple use of media. It just ticks all the boxes for me. And then the other one that I'm more fascinated by as opposed to loving it is Jaguar. I'm just really curious to see where they're going to bring this. When it launched, first of all, you had art directors all over the country throwing down their pencil, pulling their hair out. And then you'd other sort of influencers on LinkedIn saying it's very disappointing that they didn't at least research this concept. I'm sure they researched the hell out of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is part of a much bigger plan. And I'm fascinated to see where it's going to go next.
Yeah. Watch this space. I think when they revealed the car, I posted and saying it looked like the Pink Panther car. Ciara, how about you?
Well, I'm going to do a bit of a plug now because you might have heard we won the Marketing Society Grand Prix Award for brand strategy, and that was with our work with the Irish League of Credit Unions. So I think it was just a fantastic campaign where, you know, they went back to basics really, where we all see all the different results that come out about credit union being the most emotionally strong brand in Ireland. People love it, but they still weren't getting people in the door. And they weren't, you know, getting new accounts, and that was one of their biggest challenges. So they went back to a new campaign for you, not profit, essentially, where they just went into real life scenarios that people can place themselves into, that they could see how it's relevant for me and how joining this can make a difference. So I think it's just a really, really good campaign. And if I might add another one as well, and I think I recently saw the Simon Community Christmas ad, and oh my God, it was so powerful. It was putting you in the place of that individual who was sleeping rough and seeing his earlier life. And we did a lot of research with RedC direct testing as well, on the Effie Award winners, and it just evoking those strong emotions, but the relatable emotions is just so powerful. And when I saw the ad, I think it was only a couple of nights ago I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that really pulled, you know, a lot of heartstrings. I thought it was incredible.
I haven't seen that one yet. I'll have to.
Oh God, it's tough watching.
Yeah. Glenn Hansard is in it as well.
Yes, yeah.
Active, yeah. It's a good cry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to, you know, work my way up to that one.
Yeah.
Like, I want to talk about Elf Beauty, and I think for me, brand of the year, Elf Beauty. I think their work is outstanding. I think how they lean into culture is just phenomenal. The work they did with Billie Jean King, their Too Many Dicks campaign to change the gender basis on boards. It just is brilliant. And it's all about their brand, what their brand stands for. Like your point, Alma, what are you about? And they just do it fantastically well. They entertain so good. And then my honorable mention, I think, for Christmas ads that we haven't talked about would be Waitrose in the UK. That is one of the best Christmas campaigns I think I have ever seen. And it's maybe and this is going to say so much about me, because the things I'm talking about are not emotional. I found it enjoyable, humorous. I loved the idea of the kind of the thriller. Do you know they actually got a mystery writer, a professional author to come in and help them with the script? Like, that's the investment they put into getting it. The casting was exceptional. So that for me is like a just wonderful campaign. And I just hope they lean into it every year, because that, I think that's the sustainability of these campaigns is, we've talked about it, right? We look at the ones that are showing up in the top 10. A lot of them are ones that either have elements of sameness and familiarity, or they're the same ad that have run again and again. I guess we're coming at near time. I have two last questions for you. Is there any kind of, for you, marketing moment of the year when you think back to the year and it stopped you dead in your tracks and you were just like, ooh, or wow, or probably the Cairn sessions were probably one of them for all of you. I know we talked about that. My Cairn sessions. You're looking blankly at me, and
Oh yeah,
Rub it in.
I think for me, the standout moment was from the Olympics, and myself and Connor worked on the Team Ireland sponsorship before, so we have probably feelings with the Olympics. But sorry if I'm pronounced them incorrectly, LVMH, the designers, the luxury conglomerate sponsorship and everything was incredible, with so many different touch points. And it's like absolute genius who done that initial plan for how they're going to show up. So there was incredible showcase of like French craftsmanships and luxury through all this sponsorship, and even the arrival of the Olympic flame. And at the very start, there was like the Louis Vuitton trunk that the torch was carried in, and like those little touch points that you can probably see at the start and you don't really know what it is, but then you realize, whoa, that was really, really clever. Even the medals were made by them, and the uniforms were made by Louis Vuitton, etc. And my kind of favorite moment is that Louis Vuitton designed the trace. That was so it was like product placement. Like it's just fantastic. It's really, really well done. So that was my favorite. I wish I was the one behind that.
Or holding one of the bags. Did you have a
well, look, the Olympics, hard to top that. Again, I'll hark back to Jaguar. That was a bit of a standout moment for me. But then the other one is seeing Roy Keane back doing delighted. Absolutely delighted, because I actually worked on an ad for Walkers with Roy Keane, and he was just the best person to have on. So, like, just no drama. It was really hardworking, and he's just brilliant. I love him on all the podcasts, and I love seeing him back now on Sky Mobile. It's fantastic.
It was a good campaign. Ciara, how about you?
Well, it actually came when I was doing a bit of research. I started looking up lots of different things. I came across Liquid Death, and I was like, what is this? It's a bottle of water.
Yeah.
And they're so anti-establishment, but my God, the marketing campaigns that they have are absolutely phenomenal and so cutting edge. Yet they're standing on the podium of, no, we're just keeping things simple. It's like, you can imagine the size of the marketing teams. I thought it was just incredible that a brand can be so successful by being anti everything that they are essentially doing to be successful, but just having the right tone that sits with the right audience makes such a great impact and can just lead to massive success.
And it's hugely successful. And I thoroughly love Mark Ritson going off on Liquid Death, because people missed the point entirely of what he was trying to say. He wasn't having to go with Liquid Death. He was just saying, everyone's saying Liquid Death is the future of marketing. And he's like, no, it's not. We need to think about the 4 Ps. And he really wants, his big point was people need to think about price more than promotions as a lever for marketers. And we're at the end, but can we come real quickly to ask for any sort of a prediction or something that you are looking forward to in 2025? So I'm gonna start with you for your prediction or thing that you're looking forward to?
There'll be more AI in production, that's for sure. I think we're going to see a lot of experimentation in that regard. And I'm, fascinated to see that. I also think there's going to be a lot more people going freelance. So that would be
Also interesting. Where would they go, Una, if they go freelance?
why don't you check out the indie list?
Great idea. Alma, how about you? Prediction or something you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so how technology would show up more and more in the ads. So it would be cool to start seeing Christmas ads where there's a lot of augmented reality, virtual reality, etc. Because like you're in this beautiful Coca-Cola town, maybe just by wearing your virtual reality glasses or something like that. So that would be a fun thing to see. And another one I would love to see, there's a rise of these solo living one and like one person households, etc. And I haven't seen a good campaign targeting these people or in kind of smart way doing anything with this segment. And it's a huge segment and it's right, like it's growing segment. So it would be really interesting to see what's going to happen there, because it's a huge opportunity from like pretty much every brand because they consume everything.
Yeah, 100%. I spoke to Ahmed from work about that, and it's such a huge missed opportunity, even down to product. You think about it, your product shows up. Ciara, how about you for 2025?
Well, I'm sure everyone's heard this and it's already been touched on, but for us in the research industry, it's just how AI is going to transform what we do, but in a way that AI is never going to replace a good insight analyst, really, that can take the data and translate it into what the company needs. It can give us all the data that we can then tell the stories with. But I'm just really excited to do a lot more of that and have lots of time saved by just getting all the data in one place and then me being able to tell my stories. I'm really excited for that.
I think, the speed of AI is just going to be phenomenal. We can't predict now this time next year what we will have done with AI. I think the one thing for me on it is I use it a lot and I'm experimenting with it a lot and seeing where it can add value. And there's so many places. It's going to disrupt agencies, and I don't know if enough of them are actually thinking about it. It's going to disrupt expectations clients have. The other thing that we have to balance and get right is just the impact, the environmental impact. Like the models are built for using up a lot of energy because they're meant to be used for complex tasks, like your data one, right? That's exactly what it should be used for. More and more people are using it as a search tool, but it uses the same amount of energy that it does for a complex task to create that search. So that has to be balanced. I'm hugely excited by it, but that's my little, God, what a sobering negative way to on that note, good luck.
No. Well, let's bring it back down to jingles, Christmas jingles. Can we please bring Penny's Christmas jingle back? You were going to mention something about jingles.
And you're right, Una.
I am right.
Yeah.
No, but the jingles, like, why don't we have parcel jingles anymore? Is it because they're not seen as cool? I think they're massively effective.
They're amazing. Think about passive attention, like that, 100%. If I said to you, them bones need calcium, what would you think about?
Milk?
Yeah. Like, no, I know.
Our storyboard. Yeah, but like, I'm showing my age now, but like, let your fingers do the walking. You just log on and save money.
Yeah.
We did work recently with Cairn and Amplified Intelligence with the TV and the importance of those aural assets in the passive attention, exactly as you said, Connor. And they are just so strong. We're working with a number of our clients trying to, using the Red Star testing, getting that distinctive score up. And it's all about in some cases about oral assets, visual assets, whatever it might be, but it's getting those assets going and using what you can that you've had before and bringing it back in, because that's what people remember.
I was at a thing a couple of weeks ago and Ray Sheeran quoted some very stark figures from the UK that 89% of people either don't notice or can't remember ads, as in the UK. So assume it's a similar kind of percentage here. The role of those aural assets and those kind of thematic markers so important in just like triggering memorability and relevance at a moment in time, because we're just being bombarded, aren't we? Media proliferation and so on.
And the other stat you may not have mentioned is that 100% of people don't care. I care deeply. Listen, thank you so much, Alma, Una, Ciara. Really appreciate you joining me today. And Ciara, thanks so much to RedC for the sponsorship of this episode. If people want to find more out about RedC and the Red Star and this research, where can people get all the information?
Well, we will be releasing everything this week, so you'll be able to download our full report from our website. www.redcdirect.com will bring you to the DIY ad testing platform, or redcresearch.com as well for our website with all details, and our LinkedIn page and everywhere else.
Brilliant. And I'll put links in the show notes for everything as well, so people can easily find that as well. Well, listen, thanks so much. That's it for this episode of That's What I Call Marketing. It was an absolute thrill to have such wonderful guests with me today. If you've enjoyed today's episode and you would like to share it with your friends, your colleagues, your family, your next door neighbor, just get a link and send it on their way. And there will be another episode out next week, so stay tuned for that. For me, your host, Conor Byrne, take care.
If you would like to reach an engaged community of marketing leaders, get in touch with That's What I Call Marketing to discuss sponsorship opportunities.